I don't remember where's my. So we begin?
Yes.
Perfect. Good morning to the various entities before us and to the viewing and listening audience. This is the 15th meeting of the Joint Select Committee on Finance and Legal Affairs. And today, the committee is convening the public hearing pursuant to its inquiry into the state strategy for implementing unproclaimed legislation passed by Parliament during the last 20 years. So this is part 2. We've looked at other unproclaimed legislation before, if you recall. Today, our specific focus is on the Dog Control Act 2013, Chapter 6756. I invite members of the listening and viewing audience to post or send their comments via the Parliament's various social media platforms, Facebook page, ParlView, Parliament's YouTube channel, and Twitter. I should like to welcome officials of the various corporations appearing before us this morning. Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government, Diego Martin Regional Corporation, Arima Borough Corporation, Port of Spain City Corporation, San Fernando City Corporation, Penil Debe Regional Corporation, Chaguanas Borough Corporation, Sangre Grande Regional Corporation, Trinidad and Tobago Society for the Prevention of Cruelty Against Animals, and Animals 360 Foundation. I am Hazel Thompson Ahi, chairman of the committee, and I invite members of the committee to introduce themselves, please.
Morning, Chairman and other members. Lawrence Hislop, member.
Good morning, Chairman, other members and the listening public. Keith Scotland, the member.
Good morning, Chairman, other members, members of the public, and to other participants. Hasselbachus, member.
That's it. All right. I now invite officials to introduce themselves, please. Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government.
Hi, good morning, Madam Chair. Peter Mitchell, currently Acting Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government. I'm here with Ms. Nadine David Pagaro, Planning Officer to Acting. The ministry welcomes the opportunity to participate in this meeting to discuss the Dog Control Act and its accompanying regulations, and will be able to answer as much questions as we can. The ministry did supply to the committee a detailed brief in terms of where we are at and what we are planning to do in the medium to short term. Just for the education of the committee and other stakeholders, the ministry is currently pursuing the operationalization of the...
At this stage, sir, at this stage, you are introducing yourselves, and we will come to opening statements later on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right.
So let us continue, please. Officials of the Arima Borough Corporation. Just introduce yourselves, the committee.
Good morning. Good morning, all. I am Mr. Sean Gapur, the engineer.
Sean Lamott, financial officer.
Aditya Ramkisoon, public health inspector.
Sean, what's your surname, Sean?
Sean Lamott.
Sean Lamott, and we have Sean, another Sean.
Yes, Chair, Sean Gapur.
All right, thank you. Chaguanas Borough Corporation, please.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. I'm ASP Lala, Balram Lala, Municipal Police.
Amy Bagwandin, Public Health Officer. Good morning, Dina Kamru Badram, Public Health Officer.
Thank you. Diego Martin Regional Corporation, please.
Good morning, Beverly Hayward, CEO, acting, Diego Martin Corporation.
Good morning, Queen Edwards, Public Health Officer.
Good morning, Samuel Harewood, Legal Assistant.
So you have changed the names of the persons who were called to repair. All right.
Yes. One of the names.
Penal Debe, please. Penal Debe Regional Corporation.
Good morning. Omati Arjun Singh, Principal Medical and Health Officer. Pleased to meet all of you again.
Nirala Ramprasad, Corporate Secretary. Danielle Dinarine, Public Health Officer.
Port of Spain City Corporation, please.
Good morning, Mr. Sukwal, Public Health Inspector.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Superintendent Glenn Charles of the Port of Spain City Police.
Largest corporation with the fewest people. San Fernando City Corporation.
Good morning, Katian Milsma, Chief Executive Officer.
Good morning, Heather Crawford, Deputy Chief Executive Officer.
Good morning, Chairman, other members, listening and viewing public. Gerard Ramarak, Project Manager.
Sangre Grande Regional Corporation.
Good morning, Batian Dial, Acting CEO, Sangre Grande Regional Corporation. Good morning, Madam Chair, Committee, members of the public, Felicia St. Bernard, Corporate Secretary.
Good morning, Shabana, Public Health Officer.
Good morning, Mervyn Wilson, Public Health Officer.
Trinidad and Tobago Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals.
Good morning, Sarah Maynard, Operations Manager, PTS-PCA.
Good morning, Tita Kuravilla, TTSPCA Chairman.
360 Animals 360 Foundation Incorporated.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Nikita Mohammed, Director of the Animals 360 Foundation.
Thank you all. The purpose of today's hearing is to examine the factors that are contributing to the delay in the full implementation of the Dog Control Act 2013. The sections of the Act that can be enforced without delay, the sections of the Act that require more time and/or input for operationalization, and fourthly, the impact that the delay in the full implementation of the Act has had on the safety and protection of citizens and the effective regulation of the dog population. We know that dog is man's best friend, but it hasn't always worked out that way. So we really want to get this act going. I will now invite opening statements, brief opening remarks, maximum of 2 minutes, from one Mr. Peter Mitchell, Deputy Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government. The floor is yours, Mr. Mitchell. Put on your mic, please, if that's the problem.
Right. Good morning again. The Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government takes the opportunity to participate in this committee to assist the committee in terms of understanding where we are at with the Dog Control Act of 2013 and the Dog Control Amendment Act 2014. The ministry as well is currently is looking to implement the overall local government reform program, of which the implementation of the Dog Control Act will be a part of. Thank you.
Mr. Joel Alexander, County Superintendent, Diego Martin Regional Corporation. See you. Oh.
Hello, Mr. Alexander had an emergency, so he's not with us this morning.
All right.
Emergency. Yeah.
Okay. So please proceed, Representative. Madam CEO, is it? opening statement from the Diego Martin Regional Corporation. Are you muted?
Yeah, unmute. Good morning. Diego Martin Corporation, thank you for the opportunity to be part of this inquiry on the strategy. We intend to give you a status of what the corporation has done so far to implement, and we intend to follow whatever guidelines you'll give us to continue and implement full implementation of the act as you'll see fit. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ramkasoon from Arima Borough Corporation, please.
Good morning, all. This is a good opportunity for us to see where we are and where we are going. Yes, we have a lot of challenges. So I'm hoping out of this meeting, the Arima Corporation will be able to move forward in establishing a fully functional K9 unit. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy-Ann Mills-Mark, San Fernando City Corporation.
Good morning. San Fernando City Corporation is happy to be here. We are looking forward to any information that may assist us in the implementation of this bill, and we are willing to give any information that we may have. Thank you.
Thank you. We're happy to have you too. Ms. Rampasad, Final Debe Regional Corporation.
Good morning, all. The Pinal Debe Regional Corporation welcomes the opportunity to be a part of this exercise this morning. We plan to be of any assistance at all that we plan to offer any assistance at all that we can in this matter, and we hope to learn from the other corporations and learn from some of the challenges or how they dealt with their matters. So we are happy to be here, Madam Chair.
Mr. Lala, Chaguanas Borough Corporation.
You, ma'am. We are the Chaguanas Borough are happy to be part of this process, and we are here to assist in whatever form and fashion to bring this act into fruition.
Thank you. San Grande Regional Corporation, Ms. Diar, Mrs. Diar.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the committee. The San Grande Regional Corporation is pleased to be part of this discussion on the Dog Control Act. We are here to gain whatever knowledge we could get from other corporations as well as from the committee. I look forward to assist with the implementation and whatever information that we could provide to the committee to move forward with this act. Thank you.
Ms. Kuravila, Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals.
Good morning again, everyone. We at the TTSPCA are very pleased to be here and also to have an opportunity to meet at this forum with representatives of all the corporations. As you know, we have been very involved in animal welfare work and in aspects of dog control for many years. And we have over the years worked with a number of the corporations here in dealing with dog control issues. So we are very interested in participating because much of the burden of dealing with dog control and particularly with Class A dogs has fallen to the TTSPCA over the years. So thank you.
Ms. Mohammed, Directors of the Animal 360 Foundation. Last but not least.
Good morning again. On behalf of the Animals 360 Foundation, I'm very pleased to share with you some of what we feel are the limitations that are unfortunately impeding the effective enforcement of the Dog Control Act as it stands. But very much look forward to supporting this committee to ensure that the act is implemented. Thank you.
Well, thank you all. We have a full house. Never had that many people before. We're happy to have all of you and to hear what you have to say. Just want to remind you, though, to direct your questions and concerns through the chair. activate your microphone on your devices when you're acknowledged and turn it off when you conclude your contribution. We frequently forget to do that. So we will proceed with the questioning and of the members here present. Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government. Mr. Scotland?
Chairman, I will be with you in 1 second. Right.
All right.
Chairman, good. This question is, I'm asking by way of anecdotal, Chairman, the legislation has been passed since 2013 and full proclamation 2015. We have noted, Chairman, that the governments have provided the requisite funds for the building of the shelters for the dogs. But yet, none of the regional corporations have done so. Chairman, respectfully, through you, I would like to ask the corporations to tell the country and you, Chairman, why this has not been done for over 8 years.
At present, when we're looking at the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government, do you have a response to Mr. Scotland on that issue?
Yes, Madam Chair, through you Yes, Madam Chair. I take note of Mr. Scotland's in terms of the time it has taken. We have had some challenges over the time. We have managed to start and complete construction on the San Fernando facility. That was stalled, of course, during the COVID-19 pandemic. And what I can say is we have plans to commence work on the other shelters as soon as possible. We are in the process right now in terms of compiling our estimates for the 2024 budget. And we hope to make that representation to the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Planning and Development in due course. But you would understand too that the issue in terms of how we are approaching this is that we're looking at it from a regional point of view, in that San Fernando will deal with the southern corporations, and we are looking at a constructing facility to deal with the corporations on the east-west corridor. So funding has been a challenge. You would recall from our submissions, Madam Chair, that we got no funding in 2018, 2019, and it was resumed in 2019 to 2020. And we had started again on the San Fernando facility, as I alluded to earlier, which was completed. So from the ministry standpoint, we will be seeking to make recommendations to the Ministry of Finance to restart work on the other facilities. Thank you.
Madam Chair, thank you. I will cede to my other members and come back to the regional corporations.
Do you include Tobago in the upgrade of facilities or building of facilities? Is Tobago, or do they have a separate entity dealing with this?
The Tobago House of Assembly will deal with that. I'm not sure if we ever had any discussions with THA on the implementation of the act, but we will do that in due course. But as it stands now, Tobago is dealing with it on their purview.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're talking about 8 years ago, you know, since this act was promulgated. Do you have any idea of how much money was spent?
Is
it building and upgrading as well?
Yeah, I'll turn over to my colleague who has that.
As it relates to the pound upgrade works at the pound in San Fernando, we would have had a contract for $1,297,031.18. Currently, in this fiscal, we are doing the fencing, perimeter fencing, which is coming up to close to 500,000. And that would complete the works at the San Fernando Park.
And have you requested additional support from the ministry? Or you have what you need? From the, you know, in your budget, have you put that in your budget, I mean?
Yes, as I alluded to earlier, Madam Chair, we are commencing work on our 2024 estimates of the development program, and we are certainly going to do that because it is part of our overall local government reform strategy. So we will be making that representation in due course to the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Planning in respect to the development program.
So it is a line item in your budget?
Yes, it's already a line item in the budget. We got $1 million for this fiscal, and as my colleague alluded to, 500,000 of that 1 million was spent on the perimeter fence in San Fernando.
I see. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
If I could jump in. How many of these these regional dog pounds, I don't like to call them, I'm a dog owner and a dog lover, so I don't like to call it dog pounds. This is kind of derogatory. But how many of these have we catered for throughout Trinidad, and what is the status of so it's okay, so I'm seeing it southern, central, western, eastern pounds, correct? What is the status of each in terms of its construction? Because I don't know if I missed it in the first question.
Madam Chair, member, as I said, only San Fernando is more or less complete. We had in our initial plan to construct 4 facilities, not homes, and so San Fernando is more or less completed. So we just have to put into our budget for the next medium term for the 3 others.
Okay, are these 4 sites adequate for what we're hoping to achieve? What is the capacity of each of the sites?
We don't have that detail because we will focus on completing San Fernando. So with respect to the other 3, we will be consulting with the regional corporations and the other stakeholders in terms of what I would call the plan in terms of what the construction will entail and it looks like. So as I said, that is something that is a work in progress, and we will be consulting with the regional corporations and stakeholders for the other 3.
I just want to add also that we had generic designs for the 3 locations, but we're supposed to finalize it. We had identified locations for the 3 sites.
Chair, if
yes,
Madam Chair, I don't know if it's my signal. Is it my signal that's dropping out? But
we're hearing you.
Well, but I really didn't get the final response from the ministry. I think they froze. I don't know if it is.
Yes, I think I saw you froze. Ms. Ferrari could repeat what she said.
Sure, thanks.
I was mentioning that when we had the advisory committee, we came up with generic designs for the pond location at the 3 other sites. We had identified the land, we where the sites were supposed to be located, the ponds will be located. So that's as far as we had reached with those ponds.
And what's the capacity, Madam Chair, what's the capacity through you, the capacity of the facilities?
We can provide that to you, Honorable. We don't have that detail as such here. We can provide that to you.
Sure, no problem.
Yeah.
Thank you for now, Madam Chair. Thanks.
Now, in your submission, you stated that the ministry had met with the mounted and canine section of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service to assist in designing, developing, and executing a training program for staff of the municipal corporation and the 4 shared pound facilities. And this seemed to me an excellent initiative, but then you say that the approach was later canceled. Can you provide for us the rationale? Why was this important training program canceled?
The training program was not canceled. We ended up going through with the OLEP, which is the Office of Law Enforcement Policy. They would have assisted the ministry in developing the program, the training program. So we did training in 2015.
But you didn't put that in your submission. You just said it was canceled. All right. Okay. What have you been doing in terms of public awareness initiatives to educate the public and ensure adequate public compliance with the Act?
Well, a public awareness program was done in 2014, 2015, and we will have to restart that public awareness program in the context of the overall local government reform program, which will involve us going out to the public and stakeholders in due course. I can't give you a time frame when we'll be doing that, but it will be somewhere in between now and during the new fiscal.
Any member's hand is up?
Chair, if I may.
Yes, please.
The part of the overall things in the Act, there is a component of that deals with microchips for the Class A dogs and implementation of that. Where are we with that, and is it operational? And if it isn't, what are we doing using as a workaround where that is concerned, at least to fulfill the function that the microchipping was supposed to do?
Madam Chair, Honorable Member, as you know, the microchip order was initiated, and which mandates the type of thing and reference the Act is currently offered to several private pet service providers throughout Trinidad and Tobago to ensure that the animal is permanently and properly identified. However, municipal corporations are not in possession of the appropriate microchip scanners. That is tied into what we need to do in terms of the database system. So we are reviewing that in the context of the ministry's corporate ICT plans. And we hope that we can deal with the technology side of the Act within that context.
So you're going to address the need for a resident database of all that you need to track, and then tie that somehow to the things that you actually tracking, the animals themselves, and you're able to mesh all of that together into one complete system. That's what you're trying to do.
Yes, member, you're absolutely correct in there. The thing is, what the ministry has looked at is that we needed to do all our technology in one comprehensive strategy and not just look at it in isolation. So the database to implement that, the technology side of the Dog Control Act is tied into other areas including the litter wardens and their database as well. So we are going to be proceeding that very soon. Our IT department is compiling a strategy, which we hope that when we submit for the 2024 estimates, that it will receive favorable consideration by the Ministry of Finance. But we are looking at all of that in a holistic way, and not just technology for the dog control act alone, but other legislation that require the ministry to provide that kind of support to the municipal corporations.
And of course, this technology is obviously going to be shared, or access to it is going to be shared with the municipal corporations as they fulfill their roles within the function.
Yes, right. As of now, our IT department is actually in the field looking at the municipal corporations and what IT upgrade that they'll require. So all of that is being considered right now. We have a mandate from the minister to improve the technology of the ministry, and we're pursuing that. So all of these things will be tied into those things, because the database will be part of I don't want to get too technical because I don't want to misspeak, but it will be tied into the overall technology database that the ministry is having for all the functions that the ministry has to do in relation to the municipal corporations.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Madam Chair, if I may,
please proceed.
Yeah, I just want to jump back to the relationship between the ministry and the TTSPCA. From the submission, it says that the TTSPCA started to accept Class A dogs from the corporations for 1 year, commencing from February 2016 at no cost. That year-long arrangement, where is it? What is the average cost associated with accepting the Class A dogs? And what is the total amount of money? And if the TTSPCA can also share with us how many, they have that information, and if not, they could provide it, hopefully in writing. How many Class A dogs did they house within that period? And I may have a couple follow-up after.
Okay, Madam Chair, Honorable Member, we can provide a more detailed submission to you in writing when you send it for request, but we did provide financial assistance to the TT. What was the value? Have my colleague give you the value. Yeah, we did provide financial assistance to the TTSA. I don't have it.
Let me just get back to that scanner question. Is it not possible for you to go? Sorry?
I think they were answering the question as to the cost. Sorry.
No, I'm not looking at the cost. I'm saying, can't you all go out and get the scanner, really? And buy it yourselves? Is it possible? Is it that expensive?
Yeah, that's possible. I don't know. I don't have the cost of these scanners with me right now, but that is we can consider that as part of our budgetary request in terms of providing assistance to the corporations there. But we must remember, Madam Chair, the way how the ministry is moving under the local government reform, a level of autonomy is given to the corporation, so that during the transition time, we may provide support to the corporation, but eventually we hope that the corporation will be given enough resources to do those purchases for themselves. But we will, in the transition as we speak right now, provide any resources that the corporations may need, subject of course to what financial resources we get from the Ministry of Finance. So that's not a challenge for us in terms of whether we should or should not buy scanners with corporations. So we can consider that for our 24 estimates.
But I get a sense, though, from what you're saying, is that you haven't really thought about it. You haven't given much thought. You haven't planned for it. And you know that we've raised it, you're going to see how and when you can get it. If it is that, you're saying that some people are, in fact, using the microchip, they are complying with that requirement, and nothing really has been done. Well, you say you plan to do so, and we hope that that is actually going to happen.
Right.
Now,
As I alluded to earlier, Madam Chair, the Dog Control Act and other legislations like this is taken in the context of our local government reform strategy. So yes, we have plans to do these certain things going forward, but you must remember that the ministry's focus at a particular point in time was to operationalize the local government reform agenda, which includes all of these things, because we did map out internally all of the legislation that the ministry has that involves the local government sector and what areas that we need to provide support for. So between now and 2024-25, which is the medium-term plan for the ministry, we will be dealing with those things. Okay, so yes, we admit that the Dog Control Act remained in abeyance in terms of implementation for 8 years. And what we are trying to do within the last year or so is to accelerate that. And because of what we are doing on the wider side in terms of the local government reform, we are accelerating all those legislations, because not only the Dog Control Act that we have to beef up to, we have the Litter One Act, we also have the other legislation dealing with public health as well, and so forth, and disaster management. So we are going to do it. Yes, I take the point that it looks as though it's slow, and all I can say is that we are trying our best to actually accelerate this, because we want to get all these legislations implemented so that the municipal corporations can discharge their responsibility.
Well, thank you very much for that. But I trust that you realize that while the things are in the planning and the train, that, we're not detecting a sense of urgency. And people are being severely injured. People are dying because of the non-implementation of a lot of the measures in the Act. So I hope that you will bear that in mind. Now, you stated in your submission that Section 75D of the Dog Control Act provides that a local authority shall not issue a license to the owner of a Class A dog unless the owner has satisfied the local authority that is able to adequately care for the dog. What is the process, though, by which homes and spaces are evaluated, and what follow-up mechanism exists to ensure continued compliance? Or have you been evaluating any homes and spaces?
I cannot say with certainty now. Have we ever?
No, we have not at the ministry level, but it's a responsibility of the municipal corporation, and I don't believe they would have done it either. Because the necessary staffing and funding is not in place for that.
Perhaps you can turn to the municipal corporations.
Chair, before you do, might I just ask a final question another question to the...
Yes, you may.
Thank you, Chair. We touched on Member Hislop touched on the relationship with the corporate and the ministry and the TSPCA. Specifically, we were speaking about this 1-year arrangement that you have. Are there other arrangements that are in place between the ministry and the TSPCA or any other type of organization to deal with any aspect of what we're discussing today?
Madam Chair, Member, we hope to re-engage the TSPCA after that initial assistance that we did and cooperation we did with them. And it's also ongoing, but I don't have that details right now. I don't know if my colleague.
For the 1 year, after the 1 year arrangement, we continued working alongside with the TSPCA. They were providing services for most of the North corporations, and the corporations were paying for each individual dog. So after the 1 year arrangement, when we did not have to pay, after that 1 year ended, the corporation were required to pay.
It's next thing they feel it's some big fee.
But and Madam Chair, if I may, I think that's the question that I asked that I was about to get the answer to, which is what is the, if there's a, what's the cost? What was the cost to the ministry or to the corporations as it related to housing the Class A dogs at the TTSPCA?
Well, initially we provided funding to the TTSPCA to do upgrade work so they could accommodate Class A dogs. And that would have cost the ministry at that time $285,000. And then we gave them a one-off payment in the sum of $368,513 for operational expenses. So that would have allowed the corporations to utilize their services for 1 year with free services. After that 1 year, then the corporations were required to pay TTSPCA. Then last year we would have also provided assistance to TTSPCA to upgrade their facility.
Right. Can I make a comment, please?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Hi. Sita Kuravilla. Yes. I had submitted. I had put in a submission with comments on our position as far as the Dog Control Act went. And I presented some statistics on the Class A dogs that came into the shelter and that had been dealt with by other animal welfare organizations and the TSPCA. What we found was that initially, when the Dog Control Act came up for discussion in 2013, it circulated in the public domain. And the reaction by a lot of owners who either didn't fully understand the act or the proposals in the act, or felt that they could not comply. The result was that we got a lot of animals coming in, maybe about 100 came into the shelter, but we had a large number of animals abandoned all over the country, and these were picked up by either TSPCA or other animal welfare organizations. So there was quite a large amount of abandonment. And we have no idea what this represented in terms of the full scale of abandonment. Subsequent to that, I believe the Ministry of Agriculture had set up a facility or paid to have dogs housed in, I think it was a security firm facility in Chaguanas. So that was in place for a period of time, a few months or something. And then subsequent to that, the Ministry of Local Government paid to build a Class A section at the TTSPCA and compliant with the regulations to the Act that set out the standards for housing these dogs and the care and so on that was required. This facility was in place and a free service was offered to the corporations for a period of a year. But very few dogs came in through the corporations because they weren't really capturing the dogs or dealing with them at all. We did, however, get dogs that were brought in by the public or rescued or picked up from abandonment. That Class A area still exists and it is used frequently. We seldom get Class A dogs brought in by the corporations. If they did, the fee for taking in those dogs would be $200, which is the same fee that we apply for stray dogs brought in by the corporations. And we have a requirement to keep the dogs for at least 7 days, after which a decision is made as to, what would be done with the dogs. So the facility is there, it's available for use. And we, as I said, we currently have Class A dogs in the kennels. There's a fundamental problem, I think, though, in dealing with the whole implementation of this act. For one thing, the the capability of the corporations at this point for dog control is very limited. And this is for capturing and dealing with stray dogs under the Dogs Act. The Dog Control Act, however, creates a class of dogs that are considered to be dangerous dogs. And therefore, the whole aspect of handling these dogs, inspecting premises, all the aspects of implementation of this act in relation to these dogs requires that the corporations have a capacity to deal with dogs that may be inherently dangerous. So you're talking about a level of training, equipment, and that sort of thing that is, I think, not available, or currently probably not available in any of the corporations. So there's a real problem right there. The other aspect of it that presents difficulties is that this is breed-specific legislation. It mentions 6 breeds. The most common one is the pit bull or pit bull mix that's widely that are widely seen throughout the country because people are breeding them and so on, and the American bullies. We have seen a number of cases where people have been mauled or killed, and it's not by dogs that are listed in this legislation. We've had Rottweilers and so on. So the legislation has not been applicable to those cases. So there's some problems there. But I think, in our view, expecting each individual corporation to have a capacity to deal with dangerous dogs is unrealistic. It's unrealistic. So, I mean, this is something that, dog control is a skill. It's something that's learned. It's something you have to have training for. It is not something you just do or pick up overnight. So I think there are some fundamental problems in implementing and enforcing this legislation and expecting every single corporation to have the capacity to deal with dangerous dogs and to take on the liabilities that may result from handling these kinds of dogs.
What would you suggest as an alternative?
Well, I actually think we should be probably heading in the direction of something like a dog control authority or so. I mean, we do see this. I think it's the Bahamas that has a dog control authority, and possibly, a system where you are maybe focusing your efforts in 1 or 2 areas, and developing a capacity in having like a force, a trained component that can operate around the country. Because really, we don't have any figures on how many of these dogs there are. The numbers are increasing now because the legislation was never, it wasn't really enforced at all. So people have gone back to breeding these dogs. So there are a lot of them around. We don't actually know how many. But after an initial push after there's, more public awareness on the act and there's an initial push, I don't know whether it makes sense to have a trained capacity in every corporation just then with no work to do, because if they've handled the cases and now the numbers will tail off. And we also feel if the legislation is enforced, people will again abandon their dogs and look for other breeds, that don't require for which they don't have to comply with the regulations. So we think another approach is probably more feasible, on one where you are developing an enforcement capacity that will have a larger reach in the country, rather than expecting every single corporation to develop that capacity.
Thank you for your suggestion. But do you think that entity will have a larger reach than having a designated section in each municipality? Because we have different, pieces of legislation where you have expectations that a particular entity would do certain things, and then it just doesn't happen. It doesn't reach everybody.
Yeah. Well, I think the corporations would have to say what they think about it, what their view is on the matter. But I mean, dog control is not a straightforward, it's a skill. And, we have been working on it we've been working for many decades on dog control. And it's not something that, I mean, it would be ideal if every single corporation had a unit and trained staff. And so if it is that there's the funding and the capability to do this, fine. I mean, I think that's the way to go. But I question that, because we see the difficulties just dealing with stray dog control at a minimal level that does not require the capabilities that you need for dealing with Class A dogs. And that is not functioning at all. As far as I know, one corporation is currently operating, and that's probably San Fernando. None of the others have any form of capacity for dog control. So to expect then to go from having no capacity for dog control at all to dealing with Class A dogs, I mean, I think we have quite a distance to go.
But they've had 8 years to go the distance, So it's all a question of recognizing that there's a responsibility and preparing for it. But I would like to hear the other corporations speak to you, the views that you've expressed. How do they feel? For the Spain?
So good morning again, Chair, members. I would probably want to endorse what Ms. Kuroda has said to an extent. We have a canine control unit that probably can handle Class A dogs. However, I would suggest that there needs to be additional training for those officers. That is for Class A straight. We also are not sure of how many Class A dogs there are in Port of Spain. So even in terms of implementation of staff authorization officers, inspection officers, we don't know the quantity of animals that we're dealing with, how many residences that we need to get inspected. So those things would impact on how efficient we are in our operation. Obviously, the issue with microchipping would also prevent registration of Class A dogs at this point in time. That's one of the issues. So those are some of the challenges that we would have in terms of full implementation. We have done some parts of it in terms of grading offices, provision of vehicles, and things like that. But there are still some gaps that we have. Thank you.
Presentation wasn't very clear, though, unfortunately, the audio. But Sangre Grande seemed to have been able to do something. Could we hear from them? Sangre Grande, San Fernando.
Yeah, Madam Chairperson, gives me a pleasure to report to this committee with respect to activities for dog control within the city of San Fernando. For many years, the San Fernando City Corporation has been engaged in providing dog control, primarily because of the fallouts if you don't provide that type of service to the users of the city. I know we speak primarily today with respect to the Class A dogs, but the TTS-PCA presentation with respect to 14 municipalities being prepared to go forward. They may have their position on that, as the representative from TTS-PCA would have alluded to. But with my experience at the San Fernando City Corporation over so many years, it is something that each corporation should embark on, having their designated unit, because you may have limited Class A dogs to deal with, but definitely you need to deal with the other dogs that are strayed that would pose a public health nuisance and threat to life and limb. However, the implementation to deal with the Class A dogs, it is really not a simple one, because you must have the appropriate funding, you must have the appropriate staffing, and it's important training has to be one of the predominant factors to ensure full implementation. As the Deputy PS, Acting Deputy PS would have alluded to, that these are things that we budgeted for, and we hope here at the San Fernando City Corporation, as well as the other municipal corporations, would embrace local government reform, where you would definitely have the necessary funding to place emphasis on full implementation. However, in addition, I should say, we have been, over the years at the San Fernando City Corporation, providing the services, and we did in fact acquire a recently completed dog pound or shelter, as the member would have preferred instead of saying dog pound, and it's fully operational. It has a capacity of 12 kennels, that have capacity of 72 dogs. Emphasis is being placed right now on dogs that really appear to be very sick on the street, dogs that may get knocked down or be injured on the street. We try to get it off. And we still need staffing so that we could continue providing the service on a more timely and regular basis. And back to the implementation of the full implementation of the Dog Control Act we speak to today, it is important that the requisite funding be made to each corporation so that we can remove doubts in anyone's mind with respect to not implementation, having full implementation of this act. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Scotland?
Through you, may I piggyback on our line of questioning, please?
Proceed.
Chairman, we know that this act has replaced and repealed the dangerous drug, the Dangerous Dog Act. I want to ask the corporations, and I want a frank discussion through you, Chair. Do they really take this legislation seriously? And if yes, how come it has taken 8 years and all we have from a minuscule portion of the corporations is an incremental activation of the act? Are they serious about it? And why is it taking so long, Chairman? 8 years is 2 years shy of a decade. Can I ask that question of the corporation through you, Chairman? That is my only burning issue that I have.
We await your answers. Arima, Chagonas, Lego Martin, Pinal, Port of Spain. Don't be frightened and coward, as they say in primary school.
Chairman, it seems that I have no takers, but I would really want the question answered through you, Chair.
Chair, maybe the context, maybe in reviewing the numbers from, and this is just to give the corporation some numbers. I hope they have fresher numbers, but these numbers are quite telling numbers. The numbers from the TTSPCA submission indicated that for a period of 9 years, 2004 to 2012, they had a total of 31,515 stray dogs. Right? Now, just think about that. If you divide it by 9 years and you work it out, you're talking about nearly 100 dogs a day. I mean, I work for Spain, so I know what happens, and I mean, the Port of Spain Corporation, people would have spoken. But this is stray dog. And those were the numbers then. There are numbers also included in the submission that deals with the number of Class A dogs that they would have dealt with, and the increased number of Class A dogs that they would have dealt with based on the legislation and the things that happened. This is a real and serious issue. And so the scale of it and the question that the Port of Spain Corporation did give us some numbers, San Fernando Corporation gave us some numbers as to the capacities that they have. But it pales in comparison to what the numbers that we received in the submissions from the TSPCA. The question that Member Hislop asked relative to sizing and capacity for these 4 facilities and so on should be an outcome of the load that they expect or the load that can be proven in some empirical way over time. And the TSPCA is a good place to get a lot of that information from, because as it is, they have the facilities and the tenure of the things that have been happening. So it is in this context, and I'm agreeing with you, Member Scotland. It is in this context, understanding just the sheer volume of what we're dealing with, notwithstanding the danger posed by not only Class A dogs, but by the other dangerous dogs that we have. How is this really being dealt with? And how are the corporations going to deal with it? And so, Member Scotland, I agree with you, and I join with you in us having a really clear and frank discussion as to where we're going with it. Through you, of course, Chair.
Any of the corporation did a needs assessment, so you can actually say exactly what you need to have this act implemented fully. Or should I say at all, in your corporation? Specific, not just generally, but specific. Have you itemized, this is required, this is what I need, this is the cost? Has anybody done that exercise? Mr. Hislop, while they are thinking about a response, perhaps you could pose your question.
Thank you, Chairman. I have a simple question. Is the problem really Class A dogs? I know that's what we're dealing with today, but based on all the submissions that we've received and that I'm reading through, the problem seems to be just a dog issue, just a stray dog issue, and it appears that the corporations are overwhelmed, just as Member Bacchus seemed to be alluding to. And we want to know if the problem that the corporations are facing, is it with just Class A dogs, or is it even with Class A dogs, or is it with stray dogs in general?
Chairman, Steve Sanibani Regional Corporation. My apologies. We just had an electrical outage and we now got back into the meeting or the discussion. With respect to your question about the need assessment, unfortunately, at the time the act was introduced, the corporation we on this side of the Taliban Regional Corporation who are sitting here right now will not have the corporation. But as far as I'm aware, no needs assessment was undertaken for the Dogs Act. With respect to Member Hislop's question, Vincent Bernard will answer that.
Good morning, everyone. Through the chair, with respect to the question that was posed by Mr. Hislop, I would actually like to conclude. The reason being that even though you have Class A dogs within premises confined, for example, in accordance with the Act and the regulation, the issue actually does come down as well to the ownership, the extent to which someone is actually taking the responsibility for the care and the training of their dogs. In addition, as would have been mentioned by the TTS-PCA, what we would have seen, as least I would have been informed, is that upon the introduction of the Act, there would have been an increase in stray dogs occurring. Now, that in particular will pose an issue with respect to the safety of the public. And that is an issue that is of serious importance that needs to be addressed. So the question brings the question of the full force of the Act, whether or not we're going to see again a proliferation in stray dogs and the extent to which the corporation have the capability to tackle that issue, as would have been indicated. It requires specific equipment, specific training, staffing. And at this point in time, corporations can say that they are not equipped to deal with the proliferation in stray dogs, whether the dogs are Class A dogs or otherwise under the Act is called Class B dogs. So I think the issue of the stray dogs in particular more so is an issue that actually needs to be addressed.
Good morning. As it relates to Diego Martin, as it relates to the needs assessment, yes, Diego Martin has a needs assessment of what is needed in order to implement the dog control. We have a org chart of the persons that would be responsible for the to manage the unit: Public Health Department, Public Health Inspector, Dog Control Supervisor, Clerical Assistant, Canine Inspector Officers, Dog Control Officers, Information Technology, Data Entry Clerk, Municipal Police, and drivers. Further, in the report, we have report on staffing. We have a job description of the staff that is needed. We also have a monthly salary. This was done in 2014, so the salaries could be adjusted, but we have as regards staffing, we have the type of staff, this job description, qualification necessary, quantity, and the monthly salary. And we go further, we have listed 8 positions, and we have the costing and the job description. In addition, we have the equipment infrastructure requirement as it relates to the implementation of the Act. Infrastructure requirements include the officer housing the canine units in each corporation, the accessibility of members of the public. It goes into a bit of detail: enough space to use as a base to control teams, area of members of public to examine and register. We have the equipment requirement listed that will be needed to implement the Act. The equipment include catch poles. We have described the type of equipment, the quantity, and the estimated cost. In total, we have, I can list some of the equipment: catch pole 4x6 extension, 3 feet extension, dog control catch nets, replacement equipment net, cable catch poles, muzzles, protective wear would be for the staff that will be dealing, the dog handlers, canine anxiety drugs, tranquilizer guns, properly equipped vans, parallel cages, food and water bowls and stuff. So yes, we have a listing of what would be needed as regards equipment. And we have a total, but as we say now, we also have equipment for the office spaces where we need chairs, stationery, computers, photocopiers, and stuff. So yes, Diego Martin, the answer is yes, Diego Martin has a needs assessment, and it could, and the costing, and it could be shared with the other corporations who do not have such. Unfortunately, we have not fully implemented
any of it.
The implementation. So far in Diego Martin, we have in 2015-16, we got $750,000 was given under the DP project. An amount of money, $499, was wired to another head. But yes, we did purchase a vehicle, and we spent some money on building cages for the dogs, for the Class A, yeah. That's 2015-16. But so far, that has what we did, the cages that we built in 2015-16, we have loaned those cages to San Fernando Corporation, who has a thriving dog control unit. So the equipment is being used there. But as I said, we intend to continue the implementation, and anybody and any other corporation needs help with the needs assessment, we could always give it to them. Another issue with the stray dogs, we had a letter recently. The stray dogs in Diego Martin is dealt with by the TSPCA, we call them, or the Port of Spain Corporation helps us with that. Recently in April, TSPC sent us a letter stating that they overwhelm and they can't continue giving us that service. So yes, we see the need to restart this implementation to deal with both stray dogs and maybe the Class A, handling of the Class A dogs. That's my contribution.
Thank you. So that was around, you said, some years ago that was done. Has there been any update? You did your needs assessment, you did that 15-16, you talk about all of that in the past. What has happened since then? Because today is not like yesterday.
Right, the costing will be different. As it relates to 2014-15, to date, we have nothing has been continued since 2015. So as I said, along with the local government reform transition, yes, we intend to take up the Dogs Act as to try and implement in conjunction with head office.
Yes, I quite understand. So there is the intention. You have the intention. You know what they say about it. Let me hear from Pina. Pina seems to want to say something to us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Likewise, just as Diego Martin, in 2015, we would have done a needs assessment as well, which was submitted to the ministry. Clearly, the figures that I'm seeing reflected here would require revision. I would have noted from what Diego Martin has shared that some of the items that was listed in their needs assessment was missed from our needs assessment and should be included. So yes, we would have done something in 2015. Regrettably, there was no follow-up from 2015 till now. But we will undertake to do that follow-up as soon as possible.
Chair, if I may, as you're going along this path and the operations are responding, and the question of the needs analysis has come up, I think it's a really good thing. But needs analysis are simply those things, the needs analysis. The other components that should go along with the needs analysis would require that you also understand the gap that exists between what the needs analysis says you require and what you actually have. And then there is the creation of a process or a map that takes you from what the needs analysis say you need, what you actually have, and that roadmap gets you to where you need to go over a period of time that makes sense. What seems to have happened is that the needs analysis have been done. They've looked at the needs analysis as a list of items to be acquired. And then whether they're acquired or not will define whether or not the outcome of this thing is successful. The further piece that I would like to hear as people continue the discourse is what has happened after the needs analysis was done. Did they actually create a mechanism, a function, a way to get the things that the needs analysis said they needed to get, that they did not have, the gap? What was the process or the mechanism that was being devised or utilized to bridge that gap? If this was purely a question of acquisition of items and recruitment of staff, then how is it that what came out of the needs analysis turned into a plan to get to where you need it? So as they continue in the discourse, it would be good to hear how that was supposed to happen. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. So can the ministry advise, what happens after you receive the needs assessment? What are the next steps? What happens? What happened? Because I get a sense there's been a flurry of activity, the act is passed, and then in spite of the fact that there's been so much in the public space about what is happening with dangerous dogs and all of that, that people are just resting on their laurels of have submitted this. And now we're in the year 2023. Can the ministry help?
Yes, Madam Chair. As the corporation so eloquently put, they did a needs assessment and they made certain proposals. We would have made certain recommendations, but I think we are subject to whatever budgetary allocation that the Ministry of Finance has given to us. And I do know that when I look at the timelines, there was a particular period in a particular fiscal where the government was really under pressure. So there was a reprioritization of the entire budget. So all we can do is advocate to the Ministry of Finance on behalf of the corporations. We do have the record, but I want to add to that I think, as Diego Martin alluded to just a moment ago, the need assessment will have to be revisited because times have changed, and of course, a lot of things may have to be done. With respect to staffing, Madam Chair, we have to look at staffing at the corporation holistically, and we are doing that in terms of preparing them to take on the additional responsibilities that the Local Government Reform Act will be mandating them to do. And of course, part of that will be dealing with the issues with the dog control. That is part of the public health and sanitation purview that the corporations will be having. But we, as a coordinating entity, we do advocate to the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Planning and Development on behalf of the corporations. And we do accept that they have been operating under CPA constraints and they have gone beyond the call. And we at the ministry appreciate that. So we accept that the importance of this, in particularly dealing with Class A dogs. So as I said, and I repeatedly said, that we will continue to advocate for them. The staffing issues, we are also advocate for them in a different format, in a different avenue. And again, we will continue to raise the issues with the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Planning and Development.
Thank you. Port of Spain City Corporation want to say something, and then I will have Kura Villa from the Trinidad and Tobago Society, Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, and then Ms. Mohammed from 360 Foundation Incorporated. That order, please.
Good morning again, Chair. With respect to the needs analysis, for the corporation, we would have conducted one in 2015. We would have received around 2017 funding from the ministry. This is a supplement of existing canine control units. So we do have canine control capacity for Australia. This would have resulted in acquisition or upgrade of vehicles with the kennels, upgrade of our infrastructure, and upgrade of some of our equipment, that is the operational equipment in terms of capsules, grasshoppers, nets, things like that. We would be able to proceed with procuring all of the equipment, for example, the scanner that we were looking at, obviously, because we needed some further guidance as to time and that should have been really a collaborated effort so that we ensure that the scanners that we have are compatible with the industry guidance for that. But in terms of the control equipment, yes, we did. We were able to procure that, and we continue to procure and upgrade the equipment as necessary. Furniture and furnishing were procured of this equipment. The gap that we would have would be in terms of personnel, and that is for the inspection part of the facility. We would have done estimates for that, and I would just give a figure, for example. That analysis would have come up to 1.002330 million, 1.002 million. We would have estimated for staffing for approximately 1 year. However, as I would have indicated before, because we don't know the number, the quantity of classes that we're dealing with, and the quantity of homes that need to be inspected, obviously that's an estimation in that context, because we actually don't know that requirement. So we would have implemented those parts of it on around 2017 going forward. So those were completed. As I said, the gap would be in terms of some of the equipment, tranquilizer gun, scanners, and the inspection officer. Thank you.
City Corporation, capital city of Trinidad and Tobago, we have been really challenged by your audio. I would therefore suggest that you send us what you can in writing so that it can form part of our report. Most of what you've said has not been captured by us. I don't know if you're using a cordless mic, what is the challenge? But I can tell you that we have not been able to benefit from the pearls of wisdom that you are casting before us this morning. Pardon me?
Noted, we will submit in writing. I'm not sure if you're hearing me still.
Yes, we will appreciate that, because we would hate to lose the important things that you have to say to us. Take this, we are crucial in taking this thing forward. Kuruvilla, and then Ms. Mohammed, please.
Yes, thank you. I think in terms of the operations of the corporations, there was a cabinet-appointed advisory committee that met in 2014, and at that stage, we looked a lot at what was necessary for implementation of the Act, and a lot of work was done on planning for the facilities, the holding facilities for these dogs. The plans were drawn up, it was looked at staffing and so on. And I think at the time, the corporations were all asked to submit their needs assessment. But one of the big problems really over the past 10 years for the corporations, even if they did get their units up and running, would have been access to a holding facility. Up to, I can't remember the exact dates, but maybe 5-6 years ago, we were servicing Port of Spain, Tunapuna, Piarco, San Juan, Laventil, Chaguanas, I think for a short time, Sangre Grande, and then periodically, well, more recently, Couva, And then we even had inquiries from Penal Debe to bring dogs into our shelter. Now, which we thought very impractical considering the distance and so on. So I think one of the big problems is that there's really no holding facility for these animals anyway, apart from, well, there's the TSPCA. We have a capacity for just over 100 dogs in our facility. And the San Fernando facility, which is saying they have 12 kennels. San Fernando used to service the southern corporations, but that stopped many years ago. And their facility was shut down because it was completely run very poorly and it was inadequate for the job. So at this point, really, apart from the 12 kennels in San Fernando, there's only the TSPCA shelter facility. And we take the majority of animals that come into our facility are brought in by the public. As far as Diego Martin goes, it's not that we have said that we are not going to assist at all. The point is that all the animals that we take in from those areas, or when we are approached by citizens who have problems, or schools, or anyone else who has problems with strays, we deal with it and the animals come in and it's at no cost to anyone. And it is a real financial burden on the shelter. So the cases that we referred to for Diego Martin, one was to do with a breeder of American bullies who had something like 8 dogs on his property. And we went with the police to inspect, but we are not a legal authority. And the other case was another report of someone who was evicted and has 10 or 12 dogs roaming on the streets. And they asked us to come and catch all of them and bring them in. And we advised Diego Martin that we cannot take on the business of dog catching. But I think a real big underlying problem is that there are currently almost no facilities to take these dogs, apart from ours and the now completed San Fernando Corporation, because they were shut down for a number of years. So that is a big problem, is that there's just, where do these corporations, even if they had a capability, where do they take the dogs?
I must thank your organization for the work that you do. It's really providing a much needed service in this country. Now you mentioned breeders. Tell me, we know that there's a proliferation of crime in this country. We know it is now, I would say, a very profitable activity to breed dangerous dogs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is there any relationship in terms of advice or anything that you have with the Breeders Association that you can assist?
Well,
and
yeah.
Even outside of the association, does anybody come to you having a dangerous dog in his or her possession, and they need assistance as to how to care and nurture these dogs so that you can provide, because you have some expertise there that is vital. Do you give up that kind of assistance to members of the public?
Well, to begin with,
or the Breeders Association.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are proper registered breeders, yes, and they operate above board. But by and large, a lot of the people who are breeding Class A dogs, well, pit bulls and bullies and so on, are backyard breeders. They're completely under the radar. Their dogs that they sell are not registered. They can't prove, what the lineage of the dogs are or anything. These are people just, especially after COVID, we've seen a big increase in the breeding of dogs, not just Class A dogs, a lot of what they consider to be purebred dogs. So we're seeing Huskies, Malinois, Dalmatians, pit bulls, being shepherds, American bullies, and these are all being bred by backyard breeders. And these are people who live in communities and may have 10, 12 dogs in their property. Or in one case, we got 30 dogs on the property in residential areas, and often without the necessary containment, proper fencing or gates. The one that we went and looked at in Paramin with the 8 bullies did not even have a gate. So when he cleaned out his kennels, the dogs were loose, and that is how we got the report, because somebody from the neighborhood was run down, and they called the police. So it's backyard breeding to a great extent. The Breeders Association members would be, generally speaking, responsible people. The problem is the backyard breeding. And people who do come to us for help or advice, we advise on the provisions of the Dog Control Act. We advise people not to breed the dogs. We advise them about securing their premises and so on. And we do take in dogs where people cannot comply, or they've had problems with the neighbors, or the police have referred the cases to us, and we do take in these dogs. So we have been working continuously, but it is on an informal level.
Before I go on to 360 Foundation, this is from the public. Has the municipal corporation conducted any public awareness campaigns or programs with the aim of educating new owners of Class A dog breeds? And was there any consultation with Class A dog breeders regarding their responsibilities as mandated in the Dog Control Act? If so, what was the outcome of such engagement? If not, does the municipal corporation intend to engage with these key stakeholders? Is there a plan afoot? To everybody is a question to nobody. So let's see what Arima has to tell us.
Chair, no, there was no awareness. There was no awareness done to the public with respect to Class A dogs.
Shogunas?
Ma'am, there was no consultation with the public. However, going forward, if the act is being implemented, there will have to be consultation with the members of the public.
Diego Martin.
Madam Chair, at this moment, there has been no communication with the public, no awareness program has been run, but there should definitely be, or there is an intention to do so.
Intention. Penal, David. Port of Spain.
Madam Chair, for Penal DB, I am not seeing any sort of public awareness undertaken by this corporation with regards to this part of the act. We have, however, done something most recently, which was laid in our council just a month ago, to have budgets included for public awareness seminars and so forth. So we've started something, but it hasn't gone fully as yet, Madam Chair.
San Fernando.
Madam Chair, there was no public awareness instituted by the San Fernando City Corporation. But however, the three comments from members of the public that you would have received, they correlate. And if you were to do public awareness and you look at correlation of the concerns raised there by members of the public, you must have that staffing in place. So you need to have the wherewithal. So it's not only about public awareness, but you must have the wherewithal to deliver. And right now, the San Fernando City Corporation, just as probably the other corporations, do not have the wherewithal with respect to training and the requisite staff to implement
You need a public awareness to call people into your space, your community center or something like that. You need what? You are challenged by that, calling a public meeting and asking these people to come in and educate them?
No, Madam Chair.
Setting guidelines?
That could be done. I'm sure that could be done. What I'm alluding to is that the concerns raised by members of the public, they correlate. So you give members of the public or your citizenry information about the Class A dogs and what they need to do. But we have to deliver with respect to inspection of premises, license the dogs, the registration of the dogs and whatnot. So that's why I talk about correlation. But the public awareness can be done and should be done.
And will be done.
And will be done.
And will be done.
Thank you so much. Ms. Mohammed?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If you'd allow me, I'd like to just continue along the line of reasoning that was started by one of the
Please proceed. Please proceed. We will soon have to leave here because there's a sitting of the House.
Thank you. So what we're dealing with here is essentially trying to resolve the symptoms of this issue, and the ultimate issue is irresponsible pet ownership, exacerbated by, as we can see, a lack of public education and awareness of what responsible pet ownership entails. And as Sita would have mentioned, backyard breeding. Anyone, just to emphasize this point, anyone can breed any type of dog in their backyard. They can ill-treat, they can abandon, they can provide aggression training to these dogs and sell to anyone in the public. So this is what we're dealing with, a large stray and roaming population and these dogs and these Class A dogs. You asked my colleague from TTSPCA what they would like to see. From Animals 360 Foundation, what ultimately we would like to see is breed neutral legislation. And I say breed neutral because we maintain that aggression, dangerous acts, these are not inherent states of being. These are not temperaments. These are learned behaviors that are a direct result of the training, care, and environment that are provided to these dogs. They are not a result of genetics. Any dog can be trained to be aggressive. So what we would like to see is breed neutral legislation that provides standards and regulations for responsible pet ownership, humane management of the stray and roaming population, including comprehensive sterilization programs. We have a sterilization program, the Animals 360 Foundation, but we are, of course, resource constrained. We would like to see a comprehensive program, and we would like to see licensed facilities alone providing for breeding. Ultimately, the Dog Control Act as it stands, there are certain elements of certain clauses within the Act that can be, we think, readily enforced, but there are also discrepancies and contradictions with this particular Act and the Animal Disease and Importation Amendment Act, which was passed in 2020. For instance, the penalties for cruelty to animals under the Dog Control Act is $50,000 or imprisonment of 1 year. Under the Animal Disease and Importation Act, it's $200,000 and imprisonment of 5 years. So there's a direct contradiction there, which magistrates and officers have to, use their discretion to advise. So what we see is that there's a lack of enforcement because there's a lack of awareness. And the average police officer has, unfortunately, the same knowledge and expertise of animal welfare as the average citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, which is unfortunately quite limited. So they're using their discretion, and in many cases, the cases are not addressed. So these are some of the things that we would like to see. We also would like to call for the reinstatement of the Animal Welfare Advisory Committee to the Ministry of Local Government and to the Ministry of Agriculture, ultimately the ministry responsible for the welfare of all animals. And we think this will provide for a safer society and animal welfare. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Maynard, you had something to say?
Yes, Madam Chair. I'm getting some feedback.
Maynard.
Madam Chair. Sorry, I think we're getting some feedback here. Are you, that's better now?
If your television is on, take it off, please. You could always see it afterwards, you know. Yeah, you know, go on YouTube and so on, and you'll see yourself talking. You'll hear yourself.
Oh, are you hearing me now? Madam Chair?
Loud and clear.
Okay, great. With regards to the comments concerning public awareness on the initial dog control, when the initial act was passed or proclaimed, the only thing that we saw coming from local government was a flyer that was distributed and sent out to members of the public. That flyer was also put in the newspaper for a very brief period, in which it said that the act has been proclaimed, and it gave very, very little detail on it. Most of the public awareness was done by the TTS-PCA in regards to billboards, social media, articles in the paper, ads that we had to also pay for in the newspapers to let people know this is what's happening, this is what can be done. We've discussed, I've been listening to the capacity of the from the corporations from Port of Spain and San Fernando. Again, we have great concerns as to the capacity for catching, enforcement, and the holding of animals, because we know the San Fernando facility, TTS-PC actually sat down and did some of the plans with the engineers in order to get that facility up and running. And it was supposed to be a temporary facility while the 3 regional facilities were being constructed. So, and then it would revert to just being used by the San Fernando Corporation. It wouldn't take in other corporations, animals from other corporations. So it was supposed to be a temporary facility while the 3 regional corporations, the 3 regional facilities were being constructed. What has happened is a lot of the burden, as Mrs. Cruvilla has mentioned, has fallen on the TTS-PC, and it has been directed from the corporations and from the police, because there's a huge gray area as to what can be done, lack of capacity. There's no functioning dog control units at the moment. Even the corporations that have dog control units at the moment are not functioning. Other than San Fernando, I'm not sure as to how they're functioning, if they're doing it on a daily basis or not. And so enforcement has been left in the burden of enforcement and the burden of inspection in a lot of cases has been left to us. And we, under the law, don't have that authority to do that. Currently, we have 2 members in Matura dealing with a potential Class A dog that is not falling within the regulations and the guidelines as to the holding of those animals. So again, something needs to be done. We ask that a committee, again, be started up, that TTS-PC is part of that it's a committee in which we can get something done. It's not this huge committee that's happened in the past in which we have a whole bunch of people that have little or nothing to do with what is actually going on, and get it done in some form or fashion, because at the moment, the burden and the cost for these animals, Mrs. Cruvilla mentioned the 30 bullies. We had a cost for one of those dogs that we took in from that particular breeder. And in the space of 10 days, we ran up a cost of over $4,000. And this is what's been happening with a lot of these cases. They range between $2,000 in some cases to $10,000, because that is the burden that we have had to carry because the corporations under their mandate are not functioning as they should be. Thank you.
Thank you. For the Spain City Corporation, San Fernando especially, what are the sections of the act you think can be enforced? Let's talk enforcement without delay.
Good day, Chair. Are you hearing me now? Hello?
Yes, very much so.
Okay, so let me apologize for that audio issue earlier on. Keep being able to rectify that. With respect to implementation, I think there can be maybe the public awareness that can be done. The signage that is required in some instances can be done. Where I'm seeing a gap in terms of implementation is the actual registration process, because some of those elements to allow that are not in place. So, for example, the microchipping requirement has not been done. So even if we have an application for registration, the entire process is difficult to complete the entire process. But certainly, I think the public awareness can be done, and the signage that are required in public places can be done.
Ma'am, thank you. Through the chair, ma'am, I just want to get in one point in closing. What happened is, after perusing the different sections of the act, it showed that the police play a very critical and important role. However, we, from the police side, have some concerns in respect to the training and awareness of police officers in terms of treating and addressing the issues of the Class A dogs. Because the police officers have undergone no type of training to really get awareness in terms of treating with these dogs and understanding the culture of these dogs. We have a problem in terms of transportation and other equipment. So we would like to see a little more training from the police side. And we don't want to shun our responsibility, we embrace it. But at the same time, we don't want to put our officers in the line of danger, having to visit these various premises and have to engage and to deal with those of the class dogs of these nature. I thank you.
Yeah.
What would require more time or input?
Well, basically, what we look at into when I speak about safety, we don't want to visit our premises and next thing when the officers have no type of training and have to engage one of these dangerous dogs, and next thing the only weapon of choice might be his firearms. So we it's suggestion that we look at tranquilizer gun and probably tasers in terms of equipping the officers to put us in a better position when we visit those premises and have to deal with those type of dangerous dogs.
Villa.
Yes, thank you. I lost track of what I was going to say now. Sorry.
All right, well, we'll come.
Sorry.
You have to make closing remarks.
Just a closing remark.
No, not ready yet for a closing remark.
No, okay. I just caution the whole aspect of public awareness is of course important. But what happened on the previous occasion was that there was a lot of discussion and the information went out about the Dog Control Act in 2013. And what we saw in response to that was widespread abandonment and Class A dogs roaming all over the country and people calling us and saying, I'm terrified to leave my house because there's a pit bull outside. So, and we had dogs that were chopped by people with cutlasses because they were afraid of the dogs and so on. So our concern about, of course, public awareness is essential and so on. But if you're going to develop a public awareness program, you have to remember that you currently have nothing in place. And if people feel they are going to be charged $100,000 or whatever it is for having a Class A dog, and not without all the proper premises and so on, and controls, then they will just abandon the dogs. And we will see this happening over again. So we're very concerned about going out there and telling people, well, this is the law, this is what will happen, you could get charged so much and so on if you don't do this, this, and that, without having, facilities in place. So someone could say, well, I don't want my dog, or I can't meet the requirements, I will take the dog into this facility in my region. So that is a big concern that we have about going out there with the public awareness and with nothing in place to support the public if they do want to do the right thing.
Seems as though you've made your closing statement. Well, what I've gathered today is that everybody agrees that there is an issue of funding. There's an issue of staffing, trained staffing, so you have an issue of training. You have also implied that there should be amendment to the legislation because the list of A-class dogs is not at all exhaustive. So we should be looking at that. The enforcement of the legislation, that is also lacking. The question of the disparity in penalties between the two legislation is something that we can look at as well. That can come into the amendments to the legislation, and the lack of awareness is widespread. So it is having a tremendous effect, this lack of implementation and preparedness on the safety and protection of our citizens. It's also having an effect on how we treat our animals, you know? So we need effective regulations. And we have to recognize that this is not an issue where apathy can continue. And we need to get going to implement this legislation as quickly as we can. I now invite closing statements from the persons who have appeared before us. So from the ministry, and if we can just have one person per entity, please. The Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government, you have a lot on your hands. Let's hear from you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members. The Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government was pleased to be a part of this meeting together with our colleagues from the municipal corporations. The ministry appreciates the corporation, how their arduous task and how they are meeting them under the prevailing circumstances. I just want to allude to the committee and other stakeholders and members of the public that the current policy framework of the ministry is the implementation of our local government reform, of which implementation of various pieces of legislation that the regional corporations will have to execute is a part of. The ministry will continue to provide the support and assistance to the municipal corporations and will continue to be their advocate with respect to staffing and funding.
I think I was really impressed with how you kept your opening statements very succinct, you know, to the point. So because we don't have much time, we would just ask you to make your closing statements as briefly as you did with your opening statements. I was very pleased with that. Arima Corporation.
Hi, Chairman, thank you for the opportunity. We on the Arima Corporation got a better understanding of how we can move forward. And with all the participants as part of this meeting, we have a better understanding and guidance of what we can do to improve our designs for our facility and the necessary staffing. So you'll get it right moving forward. And we'll have no issues with our facility when constructed.
Chagonas.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. We at Chagonas, we do appreciate being part of this consultation. We do recognize that we have a very large task ahead of us, and we are prepared to work together with the Ministry of Local Government and all other agencies to bring some a resolution to this Dangerous Dog Control Act at the quickest possible time.
Thank you. Haywood, Diego Martin Regional Corporation.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. So we at the Diego Martin Regional Corporation would like to thank everyone involved, all the parties, all the entities involved today. Right, we do appreciate the discourse this morning and, well, by extension, this afternoon. We look forward to working with the local government, right, for local government reform and the ministry and the implementation of the legislation. We do appreciate also the issues in terms of funding and resources. And in all, we do say that we are appreciative of everything that was done today, and it was definitely helpful in moving forward. Thank you.
Port of Spain.
Chair, I wish to say it's been our pleasure to contribute in this forum. Again, we wish to express our commitment to doing what is necessary to bridge identified gaps and towards working towards full implementation of the Act within the shortest possible space of time. Thank you very much.
Pina, did I call you?
Thank you, Madam Chair. On behalf of the Pinal Debe Regional Corporation, it has been a sincere pleasure to be a part of these proceedings today, to be able to make our contributions and to learn from the experiences of other corporations. We look forward to be a part of the continued collaboration to facilitate the full implementation of this legislation. And we are eager to receive the necessary training, funding, and so forth that would move this matter forward. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Last but not least, San Fernando. I had pleasant memories of coming up when you all invited me and treated me so well. San Fernando City Corporation.
Madam Chair, I thank you for the information disseminated today. Know that San Fernando will strive to prepare an updated needs analysis and gap analysis in the way forward. We will also engage in controlled public awareness and interact with any other corporation or organization that could lend support with the way forward. I thank the other corporations and the ministry for the information that we gained today. Thank you.
Thank all of you. I thank you, thank you, thank you. All of the officials who have appeared before us today. I appreciate what you have done, what you're trying to do, and I know that intention will become action. I thank the committee members who have participated in the preparation, and the questioning. I thank the Office of the Parliament for their procedural and logistical support. They have really been tremendous, working late into the night. Thank you very much. Good thing I'm a Sukiya like you all. I was up to receive everything. And the viewing and listening audience. I would just like to announce that, when we have these hearings, we don't just end with this. We prepare a report. We present that report in the Parliament. That report is on the website for you to read. It's there for posterity. So we want to advise you again that the 5th report of the Committee on an Inquiry into the Implementation of a Regulatory Framework for the Development of Financial Technology, FinTech, and e-payments. That report was presented in the House of Representatives on March 24, 2023, and the Senate on March 28, 2023. It's posted on the Parliament's website, www.ttparliament.org. It can be reviewed or downloaded. I now declare this meeting at an end. Have a good lunch. Have a good weekend and be safe.